Right. Now we
Morning.
are on the last two paragraphs of this beautiful Maamar speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave in 1982, which is talking about going out of Egypt and the first time we left Egypt and the last time we're going to leave Egypt. The first time was a little bit different Egypt, and it was a different going out. The first time was this physical country in the world, and we left. The Jewish people left. But together with that, we also left the whole spirit of what Egypt was then. Egypt was a country that, according to some opinions, ruled the whole world. And it ruled the whole world not just physically, but also, you want to call it culturally and spiritually. They were tremendously powerful in the spiritual realms also. Paro had very successful sorcerers and soothsayers and Khartoumim, it says the Khartoumim Mitzrayim, and they were like the basic power of Egypt. And through them, Egypt was able to rule over the whole entire world. And the Jews, from all the world, the Jews were the lowest of all the nations. They were the slaves, direct slaves of Egypt. All the other countries in the world, at least they had their own countries. They had the places where they could go. They could roam around. They had their own houses and etc. But the Jews, they were all living in Egypt, and they all had the same job, to be slaves. It says that the tribe of Levi, they had a sort of, in the land of Goshen, they were a bit separate. At least the at least physically they were separate. They weren't under such severe servitude as everybody else. But in any case, the Jewish people left Egypt and they got out, and suddenly they were, if you want to call it, the highest of everybody. They had a totally different job. Their job was still servants. They were still servants, but now they were servants of the creator of the universe. And they weren't there just to preserve and to further the decadent goals of Egypt, but they were there to preserve the world and to further the holy goals of God, that there should be more health in the world and more productivity in the world and less murder and licentiousness, and etc. So that they were, now they became the servants of God. The Jews, they left Egypt. That's going out of Egypt. But first of all, we see it didn't last too long, because the Jewish people, they got into the land of Israel, and like 800 years later, after they entered Israel, so the first temple was destroyed. And then they were put into another exile. So there was an exile. The exile going out of Egypt wasn't the last exile. It was just the first. And they're going out of Egypt. That was only the first redemption, first one. Let's see what there's people want to get in. 1 minute. Happy birthday! That's right. Happy birthday to 1 second. People want to come in here.
Yes, Ave is trying to come in.
Yes. There we go. I'm sorry, I didn't see. I'm sorry, people. I didn't see you were waiting to come in. Good. No, okay. I didn't see you. I admitted Miriam Gibor. Okay. So they got out of Egypt. So the Rebbe says, but the point of this is that was only a beginning. And according to one way of understanding a sentence from Micha, that going out of Egypt then, it was a novelty because it was the first time that it happened. And it opened up the door to the idea of redemption. And that's the whole Jewish people. They're the only religion or nation or race or whatever, however you wanted to look at them, that they're based on this idea that they were all slaves and that God, creator of the universe, personally took them out. This is a Jewish story, a weird story. That God, every Jew you see walking around the streets today is a result of or a relative of somehow or other those people who left Egypt back then. And even converts, it says that even converts, that their souls were present at the giving of the Torah. So somehow or other they were also there. So the Jewish, what is a Jew? One of the definitions of a Jew is those who partook. What's the word? Partook. That they partook. They were they were a part of the going out of Egypt.
Partook, yes.
Huh?
Yes, partook is the right word.
They partook, yeah. They partook in going out of Egypt. Never heard the word you used before, but that's it. So they were. So every Jew in the world you see now is a direct or indirect result of this amazing, hard to believe miracle that God actually cared about a whole entire nation and He took them out from another nation. But okay, says the Rebbe, that's amazing. But it's absolutely nothing compared to what Mashiach is going to do. Absolutely nothing. Let's see who's here. Absolutely nothing compared to what Mashiach is going to do. This Miriam Gibor, for some reason, I let her to come in, but she didn't make it. Okay. So says the Rebbe. So the future redemption is going to be something else. It's going to affect, first of all, every person. I'm just repeating what we said. I'm making a summary of what we said. And it's going to even affect the world, and it's going to transform. And it says even more, it's going to be transformed. It says that lions will be with the lambs. It doesn't mean that they just won't hurt them. It means that the lions somehow or other will be productive like lambs are productive today. They use the wool, maybe the vegans don't use it, but the animals were created so that we should use them. So the lions will be productive, like helpful, like sheep are. And it says that the wolf will lie with the. What's the language over here? It says the wolf will be with the lamb, and the lion will be with the cows. So lions will be productive and helpful to mankind like cows are now. Like cows. You won't have to go to the zoo to see lions. Lions will be wandering around the street. They'll be helpful. They'll help old ladies across the street. I don't know what they'll do, but somehow or other, lions will be helpful. And it says even more that the snake, the primordial snake that convinced Chava, back then snakes used to talk, right? They could walk, it says. They used to talk. One of the curses of the snake is he would crawl on his belly. Before they didn't. Anyway, snakes, it says, will be big assistant to help mankind. The evil snake will be a big helper. Okay. So if so, the future redemption is going to be so incredible that everything is going to go out of its bad nature and become productive. Everything in the world that was totally not anything like when they left Egypt. When they left Egypt, human nature basically did not change at all. Right? The Jews always wanted to go back to Egypt and they wanted to worship the golden calf, and then they did worship the golden calf. And so the human nature didn't change at all. And for sure, the nature of the world didn't change. Right? The Egyptians were forced to let the Jews out. They were decimated, but they didn't change. It says that the miracle of the Shabbos Agadol, that's this Shabbos, was that for a short amount of time, the firstborn of the Egyptians helped the Jews to get out. They made a war. Remember, we learned about that. They made a war. But that was only a short amount of time. We're talking about in the future, the whole nature of the world is going to be good like it was before Adam ate from the tree. Says, if so, then why it says that in the future redemption, we're going to mention going out of Egypt. And why does it say, why did Micha say, like the days of going out of Egypt, I will show you miracles. And the miracles will be something like when we went out. And the Rebbe explained to us that they'll be totally, okay, good, there'll be a little tiny bit like it, but it's not worth mentioning. Says the Rebbe, oh yes it is, and here's why. Behold, Av shebechinet es hapcha. This closer. Av shebechinet es hapcha. Even though that this, we said, of transforming the world. Do you remember we learned this? Where is this? Let's see. The difference between eskafia and eshapcha. Etkafia and ethapcha. Eskafia means that like we are now. We force ourselves to do good because our nature is to be selfish. That's the nature of man. The nature of man is not to serve God. The nature of man is that you don't even know that where is God. You don't see God. You don't feel God. You believe that there is God. Maybe the nature of man is not necessarily to have anything to do with God. At best, the nature of man is to be spiritual, right? You know you're going to die. It's hard to believe I'm just not going to exist at all, right? It must be something. And so the nature of man is to say, okay, maybe after I die, I'm going to go to something. There's going to be something, so I should prepare for it. And that's where all the religions come from. But to say that God exists and he cares about every detail in the world, that's not human nature. So how do we serve God if it's not human nature? We have to force ourselves. God gave the Torah, and we have to force ourselves to do good and force ourselves to refrain from prohibitions. We have to force ourselves, right? Because man's nature essentially has not changed. Man essentially is selfish. The Tanya explains that there are certain people called tzaddikim, and they feel God just like we feel ourselves. They feel it, but that's very, very rare. That's very, very rare. And those who totally succeed in being a tzaddik called a tzaddik gamor, a complete tzaddik, there's maybe one in every generation. There is one in every generation too. There has to be one or two, but not, there's millions of Jews, only one. So it says, in the future, all of them are going to be tzaddikim. Everyone's going to be tzaddikim. That's what's called eshapcha, transformation. Even though this thing of eshapcha, that everyone will be transformed to feel God, and even more that the animals, we said, will be transformed not to be destructive in general. Nevertheless, nalit harbe yoter mibitzinis eshapcha. I'm sorry. Even though that eshapcha, transformation, is transformation, this is the goal. And in general, it is totally in a different, higher level dimension of reality than forcing yourself, like we said before, forcing yourself as we do now, right? The goal is to be a tzaddik. Everyone's going to feel God all the time. That's the goal. And that what we're doing now is just working hard and forcing ourselves. That's just a preparation. Says Rebbe, yes, but. Rebbe says, yes, but. Nevertheless, there is a big advantage to forcing ourselves to do good and turn from bad more than transforming ourselves. What could be the advantage of fighting a battle more than winning it? Like working for your money than earning it, right? As hapcha, transformation, that's the goal. That's the wages. That's the culmination. All we're doing now, the last 3,000 years, he says we're going out of Egypt. Remember we said the days of going out of Egypt, but that's just the work to do. The goal is the main thing, right? Says the Rebbe, true, but there's something in the work, in this what's called eskafia, forcing ourselves, that's higher. That's higher. The battle, in some ways, is higher than the victory. How so? Can move on like it's explained in the Tanya. It says, Ovid Elokim, that one who serves God, who davka is only a person, kishehu kofa, that he forces, umeshaneh, and tries to change his nature. Umalazu, and this quality of forcing yourself, a tzaddik doesn't have this. So this thing of fighting a battle in some ways is much higher than the wonderful result that there's going to be. By means of the service of forcing ourselves, Estalik, it says, is spread out the glory of God in all of the worlds. It says, for instance, that in the future everybody's going to be healthy. There won't be any more sickness. So the Rebbe said, so what are all the doctors going to do? What are the doctors going to do? So the doctors will be necessary to tell people that they're healthy. People won't believe it, to tell people that they're healthy. But let's take this example over here. Good, everyone's going to be healthy and that'll be wonderful, right? But still, there's something amazing about being a doctor, that you can heal someone who's sick. True, in the future, there won't be anybody sick, but it'll be lacking that uniqueness of being able to fight against nature, to take a problem and solve the problem. In the future, there won't be any more problems. There won't be problems. Everyone will automatically do what God wants and increase in serving God and increase in loving God and fearing God, there won't be any more problems. And so that's the idea, the ideal. But the fact of the matter is that the battle, fighting, defying the world, solving the problems that we're confronted with, that even though it's terrible, that's terrible, but somehow or other that is better than the goal, because we're fighting, we're changing our nature. Like it's explained in long length in the Maamar of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, and Moshiach like a king that in order to win a battle, whom bazbezet kol otzrot, he'll open up all of his treasure houses. The b'shamayim, that here we're talking about God's battle. The battle of God is to transform the world. He has to do it through us. That's why he put us here. In normal years, by a king, in a normal time, he may behold lo rak she'eno mishamesh. Not only that he does not use his treasure house fortunes for anything, but they are concealed and hidden up and locked away that nobody can even see them. But when there is a war, not only does he open up his treasure houses, storehouses, and take out the money, but it says even more, he'll even spend them on things that might be a big loss. A big loss. It could be that he'll spend it on catapults and stuff like that. Maybe it won't work. He'll just buy as many as you can, give out to the soldiers. Beli shum, without any medida v'agbali, doesn't make any measuring at all, and he gives them la'anshi achal to the soldiers, in order to win the war. This is, we can compare this to God above. Everything in this world is a metaphor for the heavens. So to speak, God needs us in order to accomplish the purpose for which he created the world. God wants to transform darkness to light. By God, there's no darkness. Why God wants there to be such a thing, that you have to ask God. But that's what the fact. He wants there to be a world where there's darkness, and he wants it to be transformed. And the only way it can be transformed truly is by the Jews. If God transforms it, that's not called transforming. There's no battle over there. Sheyesh bedugmas otzer, this is like a hidden treasure house. The chasum, it's hidden me'ayin kol roya, from eye of everybody. Ayin lo ra'asa alakim zulasechad, like it says that no eye saw it except for you. This is the secret, it says, of the raising of the dead. But God, what does it come from? It comes from our battles that we're fighting now against darkness, against ourselves, against selfishness. The battle, in some ways, is better than the victory. In order to win this war that God himself is fighting, so to speak, Ima Yetzer, with the forces of selfishness that God himself created. Ha'avodah deskafia, that's called forcing yourself. The Jews have to force themselves. Is notnim gam otzer zeh, that the king is willing to open up all of the deepest, most hidden, secret, Kabbalistic levels of reality in order to give us inspiration and determination that we should fight this battle. He opens them up totally. And who is it that wins the battle? Simple foot soldiers, me and you. Because their services with self-sacrifice above any limits, and therefore opening up the treasure houses in order that the army should win is ba'ofen bizbuz, that he opens it up without making any calculations. Just, we have to win the battle, spend as much as you want. Above any limitations. So simply what this means is, if you go in the world and you see non-religious Jews, and you see that non-religious Jews, a lot of them have very, very good reasons not to be religious. And they have no reason whatsoever to, yes, be religious. But the essence of what God wants is that every Jew should be religious. I mean, religious is not really the proper word. Every Jew should do what it says in the Torah and the commandments. Externally, it looks like he's religious. But really, it's fact, he's just being a Jew. Being a Jew is doing all the Torah and doing the commandments. It's a natural thing. Should be. But in order for a Jew to do this, and there's so many situations the Jews are in, that it's almost impossible for a Jew to keep Shabbos all the time, and he has to have some tremendous inspiration. There's people that the Rebbe, Lubavitcher Rebbe, they were friends with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and they loved the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and the Rebbe only requested for them they would put on tefillin after a year or two that he knew them, because he knew that it would be a difficult thing. The person said, "Okay, yes, Rebbe," and I won't do it, because you have to be motivated from inside. In order to be motivated from inside, it means that you have to fight a battle. You have to fight a terrible battle. To close your store on Shabbat, terrible. I'll tell you that story. That's a story I'll tell from Rabbi Shlavititsky. Wait, just 1 second. I'll tell you, this is a good story. Okay, I'll tell you afterwards. So that's what the Rebbe says. There's something better about fighting the battle. There's one aspect that's better than winning. Better than winning. And what is that? That you're fighting, you're changing your nature. Oh, so that's the same thing of going out of Egypt. According to this, now we can understand why is this inyan of when we mention going out of Egypt in the future redemption. Even though the redemption, the revelations that are going to be there in the future redemption, we said even the wild animals, even the poisonous snakes will transform their nature. How much more so mankind? All human beings, we say it 3 times a day in Aleinu. The evil people will turn to you, God. After Gilu in the future will be tremendously higher. Gilu, the revelations they were when they go out of Egypt. So why will we mention going out of Egypt? Because going out of Egypt, that was the Jews had to force themselves. That was eskafia. And we finished, the Rebbe said, it's called the days of going out of Egypt. The whole 3,336 years from when we left Egypt until now, that's one big process of going out of Egypt constantly. All those days are days where we had to fight and change our nature, eskafia, forcing ourselves. But that is a better advantage, some sort of a advantage. One aspect of it is higher than the goal. When we draw down this level of the Otzer, God's hidden treasure house, is only for when we're fighting the battle. And in the future, there won't be any battle with the Yetzer Hora, with the forces of evil, with our own forces of egotism. Shahari Zot Ruach Hatuma, at Ruach Hatuma, Avir Min Oretz, it says that the spirit of impurity, God said, I'll remove from the world. There won't be any more death even. And therefore, we won't talk about going out of Egypt even then. Why? In order that we should also have this thing of eskafia. Even when there is revealed pure godliness in the world, we'll still have the desire to go higher and higher. We'll never be satisfied with being tzaddikim. We'll always want more. And then God will open up his treasure house for this also. And also this will be the ultimate revelations. Like we said, in the future, they'll be both together. Lo yakanef od marecha. That God will reveal himself totally in the world, and simultaneously will still be working to get higher. Because God is infinite, right? God is infinite. And the levels of the Jewish soul are also infinite. That's what it means, like the days of going out of Egypt. I will show you miracles. That I will show you miracles. So if so, that what we're going to be celebrating in another 2 days of the Passover Seder, we're celebrating really 2 things. First of all, we're celebrating that and thanking God that we have the power to defy our own natures and improve ourselves and every day go out of Egypt. And we also are celebrating the future redemption where we won't have to work. We won't have to fight a battle. We'll be free to do more. It says the Rebbe that both of these movements, moving away from bad and moving toward good, they're going to be present in the future. Both of them. Leaving Egypt will be all the time. We'll always have a striving to move higher. Then in the future, there's going to be both of these 2 things. A mila de eskafia, They will fight battles, will still be fighting a battle. What type of a battle? To do more and more good. Just like the days when we left Egypt. The Hamala Deskafes Hapchan, there'll also be the good quality of transformation. Namely, what's the transformation? Erenity float. That will see amazing miracles. By means of our work and our service and our deeds now in these 3,000 years of exile, that generally speaking in the time of exile is in a way of Mesirut Nefesh. This is the element which will be missing in the future. Mesirut Nefesh, self-sacrifice. Above any limitation. Self-sacrifice. We won't have any challenges. They won't be tied up to the stake, and they'll say either leave your Judaism or we'll burn you. We'll say, no, Judaism is the most important thing to me, more important than my very life. Shema Yisrael. There won't be that in the future. There won't be any enemies. No, it's a thing we can do without, right? It says, yeah, in a way you can, but still, nevertheless, the battle is more valuable than anything else. The battle. That's more valuable in some ways than even the victory. Shahari, because behold, in the time of exile, Ubafrat, and especially in the time of the Ikfas of the Mashiach, now, right now, that we're right at the heels of Mashiach, Yesh Mo'onim Um'akvim Baribo Nisyanos. There's many obstacles and preventions and pitfalls and stumbling blocks and a lot of, tests, difficulties. Until one of the worst difficulties and tests that there are, don't be ashamed in front of people that scoff at you. And not to be, this is a tremendous, what's this? Because everyone, okay. We'll talk about this. I'll answer all the commentary after, okay, please, because if not, it just sort of breaks the continuum of the thing. Okay. So it says one of the worst tests is when you do something and people laugh at you, or they call you names, or that was a big thing in the time of the Alter Rebbe, the time of the Baal Shem Tov. There were the people that were called the opposers, and they scoffed and they laughed. They're talking about they're praying all day. Look at these, and even the name Hasidim was a derogatory name. The big Hasidim, right? Hasidim. So there's always going to be people that are going to scoff at you and call you names and things like that, and because of what you're trying to do, and it always has an effect, right? No one wants to be called names. It's a big thing, and even if you say I won't pay any attention to them, but you already did pay attention to them, right? So in order to maintain your same enthusiasm in the face of ridicule, is that sometimes is the most difficult thing in the world. There's a lot of people. I think I told you this before, but I'll say it again. I saw this years ago. I don't know, it must be 20 years ago, maybe more, that a newspaper reporter in Israel. Now, usually the intelligentsia and the people that are the teachers and the press and the media, they're very leftist. They're very, atheistic people. And one of them, he wrote an article, and he said that one day he and his friends, they were going to go, somebody suggested that they should go to a seafood restaurant. They eat over there. Who knows what they eat over there? Squid and crabs and whatever the hell, I don't know. So one person said, "Oh, I'm not going to go." They said, "Why?" He said, "Because I don't eat. I keep kosher." And everybody looked at him like, you're a traitor. It's like in the Communist Party. One person say, "Oh, I'm an American. I'm a capitalist." Or something. You keep kosher? What are you, religious Jews? No, but I keep kosher. So somebody else said, "Yeah, I also. What are you laughing at him for? I put on tefillin every day." So this newspaper reporter writer, so he decided he's going to go around and ask non-religious people if they do any commandments, and he revealed that about 75% of the people who declare themselves to be atheists and not religious at all, that they do some commandment. They do some sort of a commandment. They fast on Yom Kippur. And they can't explain why. They don't do it for any reason, religious reason whatsoever. that they're going to go to heaven or they're going to get benefit or like a rabbit's foot, it's good luck or something. They can't. They just do a commandment. You realize it's 75% of them, and the reason that they don't let anybody know is because they're ashamed. They don't want anybody to know because all their friends are not religious, and each one of them believes that everybody else is not religious, and they don't dream. They don't. Maybe after he wrote this paper, that things changed. But the thing of what other people think about you is one of the deepest influences on a person's personality that there can be. Rabbi the Yochanan ben Zakkai said you should fear God like you fear people when he was on his deathbed. And they said, what? Religious people only fear God like you fear people? And he said, you should know that before a person does a sin, he says, I hope nobody's watching me. I hope nobody sees. And God certainly sees doing a sin. But, I don't want to go against God, but I sure don't want people to see me. In exile, people that laugh, and that's how the Shulchan Aruch also begins. Also, Shulchan Aruch begins in the Tur, and also Eri brings over here in the Ramah, in the first chapter of the Shulchan, right in the beginning of the Shulchan Aruch. Nevertheless, in mitchashvim im kol hamanias, we do not reckon with all of the obstacles. V'lomdim Torah, and we learn Torah, and we do the commandments without any calculations. Am I going to get fired from my job? I do what God wants. But until shafilu reikanim, even the empty people, malay mitzvahs karimon. It says that even the most empty Jews that don't do any commandments and they oppose all the commandments, they're filled with commandments. It says a rekatayach. It's a sentence from Song of Songs. It says even the empty rekatayach karimon. It says your cheeks are like pomegranates. Your cheeks are like pomegranates. This is King Solomon, either God talking to the Jews or King Solomon talking to God. I'm going to say God. Your cheeks are like pomegranates. So it's saying, no, even the empty ones are rekotayach. It says that your cheeks is pomegranates, karimon. Even the empty, rake means to be empty. Even the most empty Jews, the Jews that are totally empty of any belief or connection to God, they're filled with commandments like a pomegranate is filled with seeds. Now, if you've ever seen a pomegranate, the seeds that are in the pomegranate, they totally fill the pomegranate. It's not like there's a few seeds there. The whole fruit of it is the seeds. And that's the inside of every Jew. Lo rak she'em mekaimim, not that just they do commandments. Like I said, told you the story about the 75 just now, 75%. Ela she'em maleim, they're filled with commandments. Every Jew is filled with commandments. Hine, behold, by means of this, yotzim yagalu, we can go out from the exile. Those people who scoff at you and laugh at you, they're filled with commandments like a pomegranate is filled. And by you being strong, it'll transform them and also because it's the truth what you're doing. It's not the religious against not religious. It's talking about reality against not reality. Reality is that God exists and the Jewish people are his children, his sons. That's reality. And the commandment is his will. That's the command. That's the reality. It's not just our belief. It's reality that you can believe in it or not. But it's a reality. I can say that, this woman is not my grandmother. If she's my grandmother, I don't have to believe it, if she is or not. But the fact is that she is. If she is, the Torah is true. So God created the world in such a way that it conceals this fact. And that's our job, is to reveal it. That's the work. And when we do, we'll go out with a tremendous riches like we went out from Egypt. What's the riches? The commandments. The Rechush Gadol Shel Torah and tremendous treasures of Torah. Also, learning Torah, Talmud Torah is also a commandment. Even more, learning Torah says is equal to all the other commandments. When we even since that there's this big riches of Torah and the commandments, this adds on in merit. So this should add on also Moshiach ziruz gam at ba'achishana. This also speeds up the arrival of the Mashiach, Achishana. It says the Mashiach will either come in his prescribed time or he'll come very soon. So the prescribed time should have been 2,000 years ago. So we say it'll come soon. It'll come in a way that's unexpected. It says it says that the Jews will come back to Israel, it says, on clouds of heaven. Shebakor of Mamish, there'll be the Geula Mitit Tashlema, there'll be the total redemption. The Rebbe brings down that it says that a Kohen is not supposed to drink wine nowadays. There's one opinion. A Kohen is not supposed to drink wine nowadays because it could be the Beit HaMikdash will be built and he'll have to work. It says, good, the Beit HaMikdash is going to take time to be built. Let him get drunk now, and the wine will wear off. How long does it take wine to wear off? The Rebbe brings from a place that says 24 minutes. It says, so that's enough time? It says, no, it's not enough time. It could be that the Beit HaMikdash will come from heaven and that the Kohen will be demanded to work there within 24 minutes. We can speed up the future redemption. It'll come, it says, like a blink of an eye, keher of ayin. In a way, like the days of going out of Egypt, God will show us miracles, namely that there'll be both of these two things. That there will be miracles similar to going out of Egypt, namely by means of eskafia, forcing ourselves, and there'll be miracles totally incomparable to going out of Egypt. That's the world will transform. That since that the future redemption is because of our work that we do in the time of exile, every day, every hour, every moment, and we force ourselves to do more good, say more good, think more good, especially in the time of the heels of the Moshiach. Therefore, it will be like the days of going out of Egypt. This will be the mile of high quality of eskafia, of forcing ourselves. The yachinim zen, together with this, will be also eren and niflot. We'll see big miracles. There'll be miracles even greater than the miracles when we left Egypt. To the degree of the going out of Egypt, it won't even be considered to be miracles when we went out of Egypt. It'll be considered to be normal. So both of these two things, there'll be on one hand the work that we did, the self accomplishment, the feel of accomplishment. We are fighting against the bad, and we're conquering the bad. And together with this, the big miracles that God is going to do alone, as hapcha, kolel, including also the miracles that's going to be when God split the sea. When God split the sea, God created Yam Suf. There were the greatest revelations then. That everyone, it says, pointed with his finger and said, Zeh Keli Van Veo. It says even the fetuses in the wombs of the mother, they saw the essence of God. It says that even the most simple maidservant on the sea, the most simple Jewish woman that never learned Torah, she saw visions, revelations of God that the greatest prophets didn't see. It says the sea split, that all the heavens split. Excuse me. He calls it, all this was on the sea, on the Yam. Namely, what? The Yam, the sea, is a metaphor for the lowest aspect of God called Malchut. Excuse me, one second. Dugmas in something like the revelation that was going out of Egypt when they went over the door. Door is another metaphor for Malchut, the lowest aspect of God. Megam, also the revelation of the splitting of Yam Suf. This was only temporary. When the Jews left Egypt, all the revelations were just for a short amount of time. Then it was only God. God did it. God gave the revelation. God took us out of Egypt. God split the sea. God gave the Torah. Everything was coming from above. Everything was coming from, and from below, we weren't ready to accept such big revelations. That was when we left Egypt, but that was the beginning. That was the beginning. That was the letting the world know that God, the creator of the universe, cares, and that he's involved, and that he changes the world, and that he helps, and that he provides, and he's infinitely close. That's what going out of Egypt. That's why the Ten Commandments begins with, I am God that took you out of Egypt, to show that God exists and that God cares and he creates the world and that he helps us. That's going out of Egypt. But nevertheless, it was all God did the whole thing. We weren't ready for it. In general, that's the union of eskafia. We had to force ourselves in order to internalize this revelation of the truth. Below there was no real transformation. Something like going out of Egypt that had to be baracham. The people had to force themselves to leave. They had to run away, it says, from evil. Since the going out of Egypt did not come from the work of the people didn't do anything to deserve this godliness that was revealed. And let's say that the Jewish people deserved to be released from Egypt. So, I mean, the God didn't have to do the miracles for that. It could have been just one day, all of a sudden, just like Gorbachev, right? Say, woke up one morning and said, "That's it. I'm going to finish with communism. No more." Right? All of a sudden, that was a miracle. That wasn't a miracle. It was a leader that decided. Jewish people see miracles in everything. Of course, it was a big miracle that Gorbachev decided, but nevertheless, kings make decisions. Leaders, what's the same thing? Paro could have just said, "You know what? Enough of this. What am I making pain for the Jews for?" Or Paro's mother came to him, right? Said, "Listen, I understand that you're making the Jews work hard." No, it's not so. Would you hear? A good friend of mine, a Jewish lady, she told me, "Okay, it's true, Ma. Let them out. Let the Jews out. They've been here long enough." "Okay, Ma, whatever you say," and that's it. And the Jews will just get out, right? Just that, right? You don't have to have the big miracles with 10 plagues and splitting the sea, and then the Jews having taking out the money of the Egyptians, and then just let them go. Why did it? He says no. God wanted to show that He exists, and God wanted to show that He cares, and God wanted to show that He's close. But nevertheless, it was all God. God did it all. The Jewish people weren't vessels for this revelation. They were free, and they didn't know what to do. But Lasid Lavo, they were free to do what they wanted, and they didn't know what they wanted. That's why they had to have Moses to remind them constantly, "You're going to receive the Torah. You're a special people. You're chosen. Lasid Lavo in the future." Then, then God will show us miracles, greater miracles than going out of Egypt. And this will be the miracles without any garment. It won't be in Malchut. It won't be through the door, we said, or over the sea. Without any, and also it will be from God, but also from us. Will be also, we will see big miracles, but it'll be from us. We'll feel that we earned it, that we waited for it. We're able to accept it, utilize it in our day-to-day life, quickly in our days, really. So the night of Passover, we celebrate two things: going out of Egypt and the power to do so every day for 3,000 years that we've been, that we can be stronger. And the second thing we're celebrating is that God is going to reveal bigger miracles than when we left Egypt. He should do it soon, and we should feel and see the essence of God revealed in this world. Like we say, Yakiru v'yedu kol yeshvei tevel, should recognize and know, everyone in the world should see the God of Israel. Very good. That's what we'll be celebrating this Passover night. Okay, now, what's this? Okay, now let us learn. Oh, I gotta stop this 1 second. The Yom Yom.